keep my presentation brief because I think we had a work session a couple weeks ago about the project. And I probably won't. Maggie was actually going to do this introduction.
Oh, excuse me, Nancy, I forgot to say something. Commissioner Hewitt is not here tonight. He's excused, but I want people to know that he did call and take one of his 9 lives.
So actually, this is still considered a land use action, and in terms of, well, it's not technically a land use action, but it's a resolution representing the results of a land use action. It's sort of an additional document that's being used as guidance in implementing the Molalla Avenue improvements plan that was adopted last spring by the City Commission. And this particular document is going to be adopted by resolution. Maggie Collins was going to do the presentation, and she has, her mother is sick. I can relate to that. So I probably won't be as eloquent about the land use issues that are associated with this document, but I'll do my best. Essentially, this is a corridor safety and enhancement plan that is intended to look at how we can make the Molalla Avenue corridor safer, how we can enhance the capacity of it, and several of the ways that we do that is looking at the operations along the corridor. And the operations are hugely dependent on how many driveways are located along the corridor and how many turning movements are possible onto and off of the corridor and through the bike lanes and through the sidewalks. And then also what's critical to the operations of the corridor are how the intersections operate. And some of our intersections operate well, and some of them are offset, and it takes more time to get through a signal rotation when you have offset intersections. So this plan, which is called a technical memorandum, presents guidelines for, as the city does public capital improvement projects along the corridor and as properties redevelop, when folks come in for land use applications and when we do projects, we look at this document and find out where do we think would be good ideas, good locations for improving the access locations and improving intersections along the corridor. I want to stress that this is a guidance document. It's being adopted by resolution, not by ordinance. These are suggestions. This is an inventory to assist staff in the future because none of us will remember exactly where all those driveways were and what we thought at the time. We wish we could, but we don't think as well as that. So this is a great tool to give the access management along that corridor some overall guidance, and so we're not looking at it just by piece as that corridor has developed in the past. So we had a presentation on access management and corridor safety enhancement a couple weeks ago here, and at that time I basically presented the ideas of the strategy, well, the problem being that the existing configuration of access points along Molalla Avenue provides for does not provide a safe and efficient environment for safety, mobility, and accessibility. And this is not just for single occupancy vehicles, this would also be for pedestrians, bikes, and access to transit. With a access management or enhancement plan like this, you're attempting to minimize conflict points along the corridor. And these are, again, they're conflict points not just for the motorist, but also for the other types of traffic. And the other thing that this is intended to do is to limit the amount of weaving that occurs along the corridor and to also make for more efficient on-site circulation once you're off of the corridor. For example, there are some parking lots there that might have three driveways, and there might be more efficient circulation on the site if there was 2 driveways, 1 in, 1 out, or 2 both in and out, and then you might have more parking spaces, etc. This plan does not attempt to design these on-site improvements at this point. All it does is provide guidance on where some driveways could be consolidated, where some medians could be constructed on the roadway. And again, it's to increase the capacity of the roadway, but also the safety. For example, there's one median here that's located where it's down by Pleasant Avenue, where we have bad visibility. You can't see very well if you're turning into or out of that location. So the idea is make sure you can still get there by a different route, but eliminate the safety concerns with those turning movements. So let's see, the other thing that's promoted by this document is transportation management in the form of signal progression and timing, and making sure that our signals work as well as they possibly can. I might add that there's been quite a bit of public involvement on this piece, and we saw 2 public hearings at the Planning Commission level. We've had a work session, and we've sent out quite a few flyers to the businesses and property owners along the corridor so that we would have better communication on what's going on out there. There's been a fair amount of notice to us that people weren't noticed about the whole thing, and that's something that staff sincerely apologizes for. We have every step of the way, both through the transportation system plan, Molalla Avenue improvement plan, and then this had many public work sessions. We've sent out notices for the work sessions. We learn as we go. Every time we do these projects, we learn ways to do it better, and we'll continue to try to get the word out even more elaborately than we have in the past. So there's some of the issues that have been most raised involve public safety. We want to make sure that both our emergency service vehicles, police and fire, can get by, get through, make sure they aren't delayed by any of the medians or the 3-lane section that's proposed in the old plan. And that's something that we've verified with both the police department and with the fire department, that they're satisfied that they can get through. Actually, the fire department is very happy when they have a center turning lane, that's actually the one that they're much more comfortable zooming down to get past the vehicles on the road. The police department has echoed that as well. Where we do have the entire corridor, if we're doing improvements, though, that's a concern that we'll look out for in the final design. We want to make sure that there's plenty of space for a big car, a big fire truck, and then another big car in the lane going the opposite direction, or if there's a median in the lane opposite the median. So that's something we'll take a lot of care of in the design of the project. We don't foresee it with the right-of-way that we have, but again, we'll pay a lot of attention to that. Another concern that's been expressed is TriMet buses. I think one thing that really needs to be stressed here, though, is that Molalla Avenue is considered a transit corridor, and it sounds hard to think about making those buses fuller today, but really in terms of helping to avoid adding more and more lanes to almost every minor arterial and collector in this city, we really need to try to improve access to mass transit so that we can try to reduce the demand on our existing arterials, minor arterials, and collectors. So with that, I would suggest that the TriMet bus, that is one of their main routes through town, and TriMet has provided fairly frequent service for us, which is actually a blessing for Oregon City. But we understand that if people are going to be delayed by the buses, that's going to be frustrating for our residents our residents. So what we're trying to do in the design of the improvements along this stretch is to look for places where the bus stops are, find out if vehicles can get around them. If they can't, perhaps bump in the sidewalk a little bit so the bus can get over, or create some way that the vehicles can get around them. This would be particularly on bus stops where there's high volumes of passengers. I don't think that it would be appropriate to do that for every single bus stop, because most bus stops, the bus may not stop, it might just be briefly, and to compromise the wide sidewalks, to compromise some of the streetscape to achieve absolute single occupancy vehicle mobility, I think would perhaps not reach the balance we should be achieving with these projects. So we would agree that it's important to do that at high volume bus stops, and we would look for those being A, where we know we have a lot of passengers getting on and off, and B, where we have disabled passengers that take more time at a bus stop. So then the other concern that's been raised, which really doesn't so much stem from the access management or safety and enhancement plan, but it goes back to our Mola Avenue improvement plan, is how in the world do you take 4 lanes and go to 3 and still have a viable arterial? And how do we make sure we have enough capacity on that roadway to serve our residents and to serve the traffic that's flowing through Oregon City? I've invited Kittleson and Associates to come, and they're the traffic engineers. I'm not. I understand what their conclusions are. I understand their models. I understand the methods, but they certainly have much more in-depth experience in the traffic modeling, and I would like them to come up and give a short presentation on that issue, mostly to put everybody a little more at ease, and the TV public as well at ease about this rather, well, in some people's belief, it's a radical modification to this cross-section. So the other thing I wanted to just mention briefly is there's also concern about if Molalla Avenue doesn't have the same capacity it ever did, is traffic going to go to other minor arterials such as Lynn Avenue, South End Road? And my response to that is some of it will, yes. And unfortunately, the minor arterials in Oregon City are intended to carry a lot of traffic. They're part of our system. They're counted on for more capacity and more traffic than, say, a collector such as Glen Oak Road or, well, any local street, obviously. So minor arterials like Washington Street, South End Road, Leland, they are all expected to carry a fair amount more traffic. And that's on, I don't know where else to put the traffic. That's just part of the system. But there are different characteristics about some of that traffic. For example, on Lynn Avenue, 5th and Lynn Avenue, we've seen that a fair amount of that traffic is commuter traffic. And so it's of a different character than a lot of the traffic that uses Molalla. So we wouldn't expect Lynn Avenue to load up with more traffic that's simply going between downtown and the Hilltop to do shopping or business errands, etc. So you have to be a little cautious about just assuming that there's going to be a huge diversion, which I don't think. I think that's got to be very careful. It's a pretty complicated problem to just assume it's going to be a straight diversion. And then the other thing that the City Commission should probably keep in mind, and I know you've already made a big commitment to Highway 213, but keeping Highway 213 at capacity or with plenty of capacity, and where people want to go use that throughway will help the rest of the system in Oregon City immensely. And the City Commission has already made a big financial commitment to that. So has the regions have made a big commitment to that. So that needs to continue in the future as well. So let's see, John Ringert and Sonia Hennem are here from Kittleson. And now,
Before you leave,
yes.
a couple of questions, I think, Commissioner Howley.
Just one when we talked about bus stops. On my way up here tonight, former Commissioner Allen called me, and that's one of his pet peeves, so he wanted to make sure that that I mentioned the bus stop issue. I understand where you're headed with that. I think basically that's a good idea. The biggest question I have is if we're talking about this corridor plan serving us for the next 20 to 25 years, when we talk about offsetting bus stops, are we talking about offsetting bus stops because of passenger load now, or are we talking about anticipated passenger load in 10 or 15 or 20 years? I don't want to go back in 5 years and cut in a sidewalk at a cost of $40,000 or $50,000. We can do it in the construction phase if it looks like the models would show that passenger numbers are going to increase. Obviously, they're going to increase some. So was that taken into account?
Well, we're just designing the first phase of construction now. So we're looking at where are those bus stops, where are the high volumes, et cetera. It's difficult because the land use along Malala Avenue is essentially commercial and limited office. One place where you have perhaps more disabled folks or people in wheelchairs could be near an assisted living facility where they need to get in a wheelchair to go to Hilltop Mall or something like that. And if the land use if the businesses change within a land use that accepts that kind of business, then that's hard to predict. I can only say we'll do our best. It's hard. I can't say that we can know for sure where the heavy volumes are going to be in the future, but we look for the pedestrian generator. We look for example, where the canned food store is right now. That could be a heavier bus stop use because people would go there to go shopping. And also, we want to try to get our pedestrian crossings where there are bus stops. That's a related item. Where there's a pedestrian crossing, there could be a higher bus volume or user volume on the bus. But we can't know for sure who's going to move in a year or two and who's going to redevelop some of the properties. And what I understand from studies in Multnomah County, that if you do get more people on the bus, you're supposed to reduce the demand on the corridor also. So hopefully this all interplays, because if more people are riding the bus, there's fewer people driving their cars. Regardless of growth, obviously we're going to have growth in Oregon City also. So that's the theory.
Commissioner Neely? Your microphone.
One's related to the bus. Can we require the school buses to use the same bus stops that the transit, that TriMet uses?
I don't know.
I think it would be something worth looking at, because they tend to stop anywhere, and then there's red flashing lights, and then traffic is hell.
You
can't go around them under those conditions, and it would be good if we had that, and also had the capability, particularly had the turnouts. If you had major students, to have them wait there after the students have left, get their yellow blinkers back on, so traffic that's piled up behind them doesn't have to stop at every segment that they're traveling.
Right.
So if there's something that can be worked out along that
Call the
line.
school district and find out.
And also something for Mayor Mitchell had mentioned to me, that it'd be, even though you don't perceive the changes perhaps occurring on Lynn Avenue, some people's behavior is bound to change. And that during any pre-construction period, it's going to be a while before we're actually doing something out there, that we actually start monitoring traffic on Lynn and so forth, and see what any pre-development traffic use is, and be able to monitor after changes have occurred to see what impact it is having.
I think that's a good
It's
idea.
good to bring up the expert here, I think. It's a good transition.
Yeah, good transition.
Thank you. I'm John Ringer, Kittleson and Associates.
Welcome, John.
Thank you. Working with the city for
Yes.
a couple of years on the planning, and now going into design on this. I think Nancy did a good job with the overall briefing of the project, and I think all of you have a good idea about what's going on, so I won't go into any description. One of the most common concerns that has come up that actually was one we were grappling with, a couple of years, year and a half back, when this whole idea kind of emerged, was, we're taking 4 lanes and making it 3. As a traffic engineer, I'm the first one to think, gee, all these places we need capacity, geez, we're reducing the lanes. And especially when you start thinking about when it's perceived as you're going to one lane in each direction from 2 lanes in each direction. One of the big misconceptions that's kind of difficult to explain, but is real, is the fact that you're not cutting the capacity in half. If you think about it, every time a car turns on the 4-lane section, everybody else behind him backs up. It's the same problem that you're talking about with the buses. That same idea is everybody backs up behind it. On top of that, you also have people that back up and decide they want to suddenly skirt around the bus, and they got somebody going 40 behind them. So you have people backing up, which can cause rear-end accidents. You also have people trying to turn out around the guy who's blocking traffic and trying to get around him, and it creates even another safety problem. So that's kind of the starting of when we go to 3 lanes. It's not really a 1/2 of capacity, but in a lot of areas it will be. It will be lower capacity. It all depends on the turning movements. If you have very high turning movements, or if you're at signals, you can actually end up with the same capacity. If you're at a location where it's just a pipe type with very few turning movements, then you are going to see a decrease. So when we started this, we started going, okay, what are the areas where we do expect to see a decrease in long-term capacity there? We went through that, and let's see. Yeah, it's kind of difficult. If anybody wants to, we can't see it back here. A few of you have seen this before. Essentially, what we have is we have this 4-lane section of Warner Milne. This is all a wide section here of this long corridor, all the way from Division all the way up to Warner Milne. This is Warner Milne. This is Division here. So we have a 4-lane section here, which then widens into a 5-lane right through Beaver Creek, and then down to a 3-lane as you go towards Highway 213. North of Division, you also have the 3-lane section as you go down 7th Street and through Washington. So what we want to look at here is we took this section that we're converting and says, what are the areas where which are really going to experience this impact? And really the heavy impact actually is going to occur from probably this first section as you go down the hill, right past Holmes Hill. And those sections have relatively lower turning movement volumes. Right now, it'd be nice to get some really busy businesses in there, but right now there's not a lot of turning movement, and the traffic volumes are they're fairly high, and they also go at a fairly high rate of speed, especially down the hill. So when we're looking at that, we want to look at how do we provide this long-term capacity. So we look at determine what kind of growth do we plan here, and what kind of total traffic volumes are out there. Well, we find that the growth on the corridors in the area of about 50%. So that's the projected growth as stuff builds out for the next 20 years. The next thing is, can the traffic even get here? And that's one of the difficult things too when you're looking at a large corridor within a large area. In this case, we have 3 lanes in the north section all the way up 7th Street, and then we have what we found, and what some people here probably experience, is a fairly busy area in the whole Warner Milne Beaver Creek intersection area. So if you think about it, the people wanting to take these routes is going to increase by maybe 50%. But can you really even get them there when you think about the highway, the intersections on 213 and Singer Hill and the intersection at Washington? So the one thing we want to keep in mind is there's a point at which you really can't grow this corridor. Even if we had projections, you run the Metro's, all their growth models, and they say, really, we want to triple the traffic on Malala Avenue. You can't do it. You would have to build out the whole corridor to a whole different type of design. So as we go, as we looked at the 3 lanes, we looked at the the future traffic demand volumes. Then we looked at what are the constraints on both ends, and can this proposal handle it? And what we came up with is it can handle it with a few changes. And what those changes are first, signalization improvements. If you've been out the intersection right out here at Warner Milne, you'll notice it's offset. And when it's offset, that means every time a car's on one side, the other side doesn't get the green, it has to wait. So it takes twice as much green time on the side streets, which blocks the main street twice as long. The same thing occurs down at Holmes Hilda. They put a new controller in there about 2 years back that allows it to be a little more, it clips through the cycles a little better. And a similar thing happens down at Pearl. So here's kind of our section from Holmes Hilda down through Division with effectively 3 or 2 signals, and then a big signal at Warner Milne that are running inefficient. So by just improving the alignments of those intersections and allowing them to line up and allowing them to run sequentially on the side streets, we can improve capacity that way. The next thing is seeing how we can improve accessibility. The access is both access, your spacing and locations of access both affects safety, and that's the number one thing. When cars are turning in and out at very closely spaced accesses, it really creates a lot of conflict points. So if we can reduce access, we reduce the conflict points. At the same time, it'll actually increase how smooth traffic goes down the pipe. It's no different than putting a lot of corrosion points on your pipes in your house. If you own an old house, you don't quite get the water flow that you can get if you have nice smooth pipes. So by doing that, what we've been able to do is take the incremental losses in some areas and be able to handle them. It will be a different road, though. It will be likely slower. If you think about it, anytime you're on a road with 10 cars, you're kind of governed by the slowest guy, so you won't be able to go down the hill at 45 miles an hour, which, yeah. I see some people who
over there will get you.
I see some people who have passed me trying to do it. You just can't get to the bottom at 40. If you're at 45 at the bottom, you're in deep trouble as that merges back. So it'll be it's going to be slower. The buses are an issue. Today there's not a lot of bus stops with much activity out there. So, working with TriMet, it is going to be, it's sometimes a challenge to look to the future. But I think the more the city tells TriMet their concerns, probably the better it's going to get with figuring out how to make it all work. And to be honest, a lot of times they don't even know their future. I mean, they know they're going to expand stuff, but the transit district typically says, well, if they're not there, we're not going to serve them. We're not going to put a bus there based on a certain year and then expect people to come. So they're not always forward thinking in that aspect. Any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Now, I believe that Bob Bailey is here from the Planning Commission, and Bob wrote part of our report, so I think we'd probably like to hear from Bob now. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners.
You live at 310 South High Street.
I'm Bob Bailey. I live at 310 South High Street, a minor arterial, although rush hour in the morning and rush hour in the evening, it's a major arterial, let me tell you. In fact, you could make some revenue for the city on that, especially those guys going uphill in the evening. I just wanted to come and give you a little background on the process that the Planning Commission went through. Clearly, you've got our staff report, the report and recommendation from the Planning Commission, but I want to tell you that, like many in the audience, and perhaps even you folks, none of us jumped to the approval and recommendation that we did automatically. Many of the same questions came up for us throughout this process that are that came up in our public hearings and in discussion. As you know, this is kind of like the layers of the onion. I mean, this has been an incremental process. If you go clear back to looking at the land use plan for Oregon City, and then the citywide transportation systems plan that looked at the function of Molalla Boulevard as a boulevard, along with many of the other arterials and collector streets and so on in the city, looking at it as a network. And then there was the Molalla improvements plan, the Molalla Avenue Boulevard and Bikeway improvements plan, the big thick book that Nancy waved at you, that talks in general about the configuration of Molalla from start to finish over a period of years. And then we're down to really beginning to implement phase one of that through a design process. So for the Planning Commission, as well as I'm sure yourselves, it's been kind of an incremental process of more information and kind of working with the assumptions. But it was clear from our first public hearing on the, let's see, I believe it was on the 10th of September, that there was a lot of people who were starting from ground zero. We spent about 2 hours or so, I guess, with the public hearing that night. A lot of questions emerged, a lot of concerns. It was clear that there wasn't as much information out there for people to make a decision on and to understand the process as there might have been. So the Planning Commission agreed to basically call a timeout and hold the hearing over to the following week, or the following 2 weeks. And in the meantime, on the 17th, we held an informal question and answer session here in this room with the engineers, the police chief, Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue folks, really walked through a lot of the background on this in a much less formal, much less legalistic setting than our public hearing. And I think it was a really good session for all of us, in that even though there are still legitimate concerns and some serious issues to be designed around and accommodated, and clearly there are some disagreements about some things, I thought we got a lot of the misinformation and lack of information kind of settled and really zeroed in on some of the key issues that need to be dealt with. I thought it was a good session. I mean, I learned a lot. I hadn't really fully appreciated the safety aspects of the odd number of lanes in the corridor, whether it's 3, 5, or 7, and the ability of safety fire and rescue vehicles to use that center lane. At any rate, we came back again to continue our public hearing on the 24th, and again heard concerns, although this time it seemed to be boiled down much more focused on some of the specific issues that you've heard tonight, the TriMet buses, a little bit more on the safety, questions about cost, who was going to pay, where the funding was coming from, things like that. Eventually, I think the Planning Commission agreed unanimously that this is a good plan. It's being adopted by resolution to provide guidance. It's not trying to pre-design every last driveway and every last intersection, but to provide some pretty concrete guidance for the staff, for the city engineers to work out some of these issues. And so we did in fact recommend that you adopt this by resolution, and we gave some conditions on that approval having to do again with designing around the TriMet stops and that kind of thing. So I think that in many respects, the process that we went through, well, clearly we're not going to get unanimous consent from everybody on everything. I believe that we did winnow out a lot of the people's concerns and give a lot more information about where this is going in the future. And in fact, really towards the end, I was actually surprised the degree to which the issue of the long-range needs of the corridor kind of came up. The aesthetics, the redevelopment potential, the need for doing something different than what we've got now as a means of providing Molalla Avenue as a central corridor that's going to be a viable business district long into the future. And I think people really began to recognize that these improvements, as difficult and as tedious as they might be, are really a first step towards that. So that's where we came from, and that's why you got the recommendation that you did. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Bob? Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other staff input, Nancy, are we? That's it? Staff, okay, all right. Well, this is a public hearing, and I have some slips. I know some people who came in later, and I saw getting blue slips, so if you want to pass those up, we'll see how many people we have speaking for and again. And I do have a timer here in front of me, and I'll try to divide out the time we have here. Let me think about it a second. Okay. Well, we're all going to get, okay, there's again. Give me just a second here. Looks like, okay. And Mr. Miller, you have a different subject on here. Were you expecting a different hearing here tonight? You said building code?
Right, I didn't know that this is the wrong time for this particular issue.
I'm not sure which one you're speaking to, but I think you're wrong, yeah.
Would this be the right form for my
Would you talk to him, please? He'll get with you. Thank you. Okay, I think we said 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think we'll start with 3 minutes each, if you would, please. And if that gets to be too tedious, we'll. Oh, here's enough from the mayor. Thank you, sir. Former mayors get 1 minute. Okay. These are all opposed. I have none here in support of. We do have, I think, well, I do have one here. Where's, where am I here? No. Oh, yeah, we have one letter that came late from ex-mayor Fowler, who supports it. Linda Carter is here speaking for, so we have those two. Linda, why don't you start? Linda is the chairman of the Planning Commission, but she did not vote on the issue because she has a business on that street. Linda?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm glad you mentioned that because I wasn't sure if you knew that I had recused myself because of a possible conflict of interest.
Yes, appreciate that.
And I just wanted to speak as a citizen, as a business citizen on
Then
Malala Avenue.
Could you give us your address then, Linda?
1145 Malala Avenue.
Thank you.
And I am very much in favor of this improvement to Malala Avenue, especially because of the safety aspects. And I don't know if I'm just fortunate or unfortunate, but I have had several experiences recently with encounters on Malala Avenue that I would like to briefly share with you. My father got into an accident with a vehicle coming out of AA Equipment Rental, and he took out the whole corner of the fence at AA, and it all had to be replaced. And I think that sometimes some of the business people don't take into consideration that everybody who is right up to the sidewalk really is in danger of any vehicle at any time careening into their building, which would be much more detrimental than a little bit of construction that they would have to go through to at least have some bike lane and wider sidewalk to careen into rather than a building. And I think that's a very vital aspect of the safety of this plan. There's also been a lot of consideration about bicycles and that we don't have a lot of bicycles on Malala Avenue, and I, for some reason, seem to encounter bicycles on Malala Avenue quite a bit. And one day I was just traveling down the street. There was two young gentlemen on bicycles, and I got real nervous and cautious about them being on the sidewalk. And just as I was kind of in high gear about that, one of them jumped right off the sidewalk right in front of me into the lane of traffic there. And luckily there was nobody in the next lane to me and I could get over and avoid hitting him. And that was very scary, and it points to the need not only of a bicycle lane but of having that center refuge lane where most of the time you would be able to jump into that lane more safely than having two travel lanes. And I think that we would have much more bicycle traffic if we had a bike lane there for the people to travel on, because it's very dangerous now that they don't have a bike lane, and I wouldn't want to ride my bike on the street. Also, there was a lot of issues about the safety of the emergency vehicles, and just this week when I was going down the street, a fire truck was going down the street, and one of the testimony of the fire department was that with 4 lanes like that, people tend to just kind of freeze and not do anything when an emergency vehicle comes. And that is amazingly what happened when the fire truck came from behind. There were people in all 4 lanes, and instead of, the 2 lanes moving over to make room for the vehicle, they just froze, and the vehicle had to weave in and out to be able to go down the street. And I think that safety issue is very important. And I'm getting the 3-minute sign. So I will end with that and really just sum up that my personal experience and with my business, I do believe very sincerely that it is in the best interest of the city and the businesses to make these improvements to Mulhall Avenue.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much. I have Wynn Smith. Wynn was in here early tonight. Wynn, push the wrong button. There we are. I got it. Reset. There. Name and address, Wynn, if you would, for the record.
I'm on 1526 17th Street. You can probably tell I'm nervous.
That's all right. I must say it publicly here that Wynn and I had a conversation on the telephone, and I got a little upset, and I apologize for that, Wynn.
No problem. When I get passionate about things, I tend to say stupid things or upset somebody, and so I'm not very good at speaking
All right,
things
just,
like this.
just relax and use your 3 minutes.
I've spoken to a few people about you on the council, and they tell me that you do listen to citizens. And so I'm glad to hear that. I'm hoping to see that that's true. I've never done this before. I've never stood up in front of city council. I've never felt strong about an issue like this before. And I've never wanted to get involved in anything like I do this. And I really want to be involved with this. I've got a bunch to say here. I just scribbled some notes. I think I can avoid repeating myself if you can let me say what I've written down here.
Well, you got a couple minutes left.
Okay. I'm told some of you were born here in Oregon City. I know Mr. Holiday, your family has a long history here. And I'm proud to say I was born here. I've lived here my whole life. And so I'm glad to see there's a lot of people here that can remember what Molalla Avenue used to be like when it was 1 lane each way, because it used to be that way. I lived on Lynn Avenue. I grew up there, and it was a dangerous place to be. Kids like me couldn't ride our bikes in front of our house because cars would go racing up Lynn Avenue at 60, 70 miles an hour, avoiding traffic on Molalla Avenue because it was 1 lane. And that's the way it will be again. I know on Pleasant Avenue, that neighborhood had it even worse. Cars would go through there at 100 miles an hour, trying to get around slow cars on Molalla Avenue. And I know you've got a plan for that, to fix it by blocking off one end of Pleasant Avenue. You know, that's really not a solution. That makes things worse for the people in that neighborhood. So I'm against changing Molalla Avenue from 2 lanes down to 1 lane. I am in favor of either stopping that plan or at least testing it. You know, it would be really easy to test it. We could turn that into a 3-lane road right now, just the way it is, and find out what exactly is going to happen. There's a lot of reasons to stop that plan. And the first reason is we know for a fact that it will reduce traffic capacity. And you know, to say that the other way is that will increase congestion in Oregon City. Things will get worse than they are now. The second reason that we know for a fact is it will push traffic into the neighborhoods. Now, we heard South End mentioned earlier. Think about High Street and 5th Street, Lynn Avenue, Leland Road, on out to the Myers Road extension. You're going to be pushing a lot of cars out there. And if you've driven down Leland Road, you know there's already not room for a bicycle there. It's going to make things really dangerous for people in all those neighborhoods. I mentioned Pleasant Avenue. You know, a lot of cars are going to avoid Molalla by going up Holly Lane, right? They're going to go through Redland Road and Holly Lane and Maple Lane, and the traffic on Beaver Creek Road is going to get worse than it is now. Not only because of Holly Lane, but people are going to come up the bypass now avoiding Molalla Avenue, which would be good except for the way Beaver Creek Road is. And so now Beaver Creek Road is going to get worse than it is today. A third reason, this will reduce traffic in our business district, and we know that for a fact. This means less business for Oregon City if we make this change. There's a fourth reason. You guys say it's good because traffic will be slower, but the truth is, it will cripple efficiency. Every time somebody has to turn right off of Molalla Avenue, the cars behind them are going to have to come to a stop or at least slow down a whole bunch. We heard the analogy of corrosion in the pipe. There's a lot of corrosion on Molalla Avenue. Every driveway, every parking lot, every intersection, every bus stop, that's corrosion. And in a case like that, the efficiency is going to be cut in more than half.
When could you wrap it up? Okay.
I'm on my last page here.
Okay.
Now, yesterday, just as a test, an accidental test really, I come up 7th Street. I passed Eastham School there and found myself behind a TriMet bus, and I was on my way here to take a look at the plan and see the budget. And I decided to stay behind that bus. Normally you go around a bus. But I stayed behind that TriMet bus all the way until I got here. And I don't want to do that every day. I don't want to be forced to do that every day. And I had it better than we will have it when you make this change because other cars were going around us. You know, if all that was backed up, it would be worse. Now, there's a fifth reason. This isn't in your plan, so this is conjecture. This is not a fact. But the fifth reason is think about Beaver Creek Road the way it is right now. Look at all the traffic that backs up at that one light that's there. You know, we know that not all that traffic is coming off Molalla Avenue. The traffic comes up Molalla Avenue. Only some of it goes to Beaver Creek Road. And not all of it gets all the way past Fred Meyer to that light. But yet, with less traffic than we have on Molalla Avenue, look at how many cars back up behind that light, right? So now you've got one light coming on Molalla Avenue with not one light, but over half a dozen lights. And there's not enough time for the traffic to get through that light when it changes, right? So as the traffic backs up from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., it's going to take you 2 or 3 changes of the light to get through each and every light, 6 or 7 lights, all the way up Molalla Avenue. I think we can look at Beaver Creek Road and know that that is a fact, even though you can say that's conjecture.
Have you finished now? We're running out of time.
Okay. There's a lot of things that I'd like to say. I hope maybe I get back to the next meeting.
You can, another public hearing.
And say those, but I would ask you please to block this plan. And I do appreciate you giving me the time.
You bet. You want to ask a question? All right, Wayne, go.
You, in your presentation, stated several times, fact that it's going to reduce capacity, fact that it's going to reduce the traffic flows. Where are these facts coming from? Because I don't see, ma'am.
Please. We're talking up here, please. Thank you.
I can tell you what page.
Because I didn't read the same things in the report that I see. It talks about, some trade-offs, certainly. So I guess that's just the question. You're saying that all of your facts are coming directly out of the plan and the stuff that was written down.
Not only the plan, but I spoke to a lot of people in the city, and I didn't even know that was an issue. I thought everybody conceded that the capacity would be reduced.
Thank you, Wayne. Oh, yeah.
Just a quick one. Your reference to Lynn, is that where you still live? I mean, is that?
No, I lived there for 17 years. Now I live over there by the hospital, but I still drive a wall almost every day.
Okay.
Thank you. The next is Carrie Kearns. Oh, come on up, Carrie. You'd like to look at my list. You have 3 minutes.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Carrie Mitchell Kearns. I'm Ken Mitchell's daughter. My address for my business is 1163 Molalla Avenue.
Okay.
And I went to all 3 of the City Planning Commission meetings, and I've read every single report. I think I'm very familiar with this process now. I used to watch my dad all the time on these city meetings on public access, and I've been watching you all. And I've been getting a lot of feedback because I've been on it quite a bit. I wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention that I brought up at the city planning meetings, and I'll try to be as brief as possible.
Good, thank you.
The first thing is regarding the bike lanes that they're going to add. The bike lanes that are going to be added, I feel, would be wonderful. We have wonderful bike lanes already on Lynn Avenue, and currently the way that it is planned out, with the buses going into the bike lanes, serious bike riders are not going to use these bike lanes because of the exhaust and because of the cutoff of the buses. Anyone that's not a serious bicyclist is not going to be able to make it up that hill. Okay? Same with the handicap accessibility. My office is at 1163, which is the flat level of Moala Avenue. And I do see people, because my office is next door to McLaughlin Place, using the sidewalk there. But at the lower end of Moala Avenue, it's too steep. 3 years ago, on May 1st, I broke both my legs. I was in a wheelchair, and I was on crutches. And it's not physically possible to make it up the lower end of Moala Avenue if you're handicap accessible without a motorized apparatus. So that's my first thing that I wanted to bring up. The second thing that I wanted to bring up is that according to this plan that you have in front of you, they're looking at putting in a lot of plants in the middle of the road and along the side of the streets. And I want to know what the ongoing costs are going to be. As I see it now, I drive up Moala Avenue every single day. I have my business there. I drive up and down it a couple of times a day because I go down to the law library quite a bit to do research. And there are weeds. There are major problems now. And I want to know where the money is going to come from to maintain this proposed improvement. I don't see us maintaining what it is now, and how are we going to fund that? I have a problem with that. The next thing that I wanted to bring up is that according to, I am Carrie Kearns that's been in the Oregon City newspaper and the Oregonian articles. And in those articles it was brought up that the business owners and the property owners should have been notified. According to your city people, there were 300 property owners that were notified, and that did not include my property owner, my father, who owns the Mountain View Professional Center, the lady that owns the gas station across from Bill Elliott's building, or Bill Elliott himself. There's a lot of property owners I've talked to that were not notified of this. And the problem that I have is that the one notice that was sent out specifically states that this project will improve traffic safety and roadway capacity with access management and driveway consolidations, signalized intersection improvements, adding a left turn lane, and removing ruts with roadway reconstruction. That specifically stated they were going to add a left-hand turn lane, but it did not specifically state they were going to remove 2 driving lanes. So how are we supposed to mind read that they were going to remove 2 lanes when they were specifically stating that they were adding 1? When I read this, it tells me that they're adding 1, they're not removing any. So I think you would have received a lot more public input, not at the last second, if it would have specifically been stated that you were removing 2 driving lanes. But it never said that in anything that went out to anyone, much less the property owners. The next thing that I would like to say is that the post office was not notified. The postmaster had no idea. The garbage company was not notified. They had no idea. And that if you would have let these people know, you would have gotten their input before. But now we are at the final hour. So I'm coming to you and saying that I have looked at the traffic studies. And the traffic studies say that this will work without increased traffic input. Well, we've created a lot of problems for ourselves that have increased traffic input, and that would include moving the post office up onto Moala Avenue, removing the high school up on Beaver Creek Road, which means everybody from Gladstone and Jennings Lodge area is going to be driving up Moala Avenue. Right across the street from my office, we're putting in the Clackamas County Social Security Office, and I think some people are going to absolutely go there. And in the future, Clackamas County wants to move the courthouse up on Moala Avenue. With all this increased traffic flow, this project that's in front of you will not work. It will fail. It will not be able to handle all this increased traffic. So what I'm coming to you, because I know I only have 3 minutes, is that what I would like to say is, I've talked to the people from PGE, and I understand the major cost of this is going to be moving the PGE utility poles, because unlike the city picture that was projected in the Oregon City newspaper, utility poles are not going to be buried, they're going to be there. PGE is paying to move those utility poles. It's not going to cost the city $1 more to do it next spring than to do it a year from now. What my proposal to you would be is, okay, if you're going to go forward with this, which I would not suggest, but if you are going to go forward with this, you just stripe the roads. You pay to paint the striping, you pay to reconfigure the lights, which would be great. Okay, I'm all for better lighting, making it pretty, putting in the park benches as the TriMet stops. I'm for all that. You paint it, you leave it, You see how it works for 6 to 9 months, and you have another meeting, and you see what your input is at that point, and then you make your decision. Because if you go forward at this point now, and you move the sidewalks into the road, and you move the light poles, which isn't going to cost you any money either way, you're stuck,
Okay.
and you'll never be able to go back.
Thank you.
And I'll be back at the next meeting,
All right.
and I would hope I would get 5 minutes. Thank you.
Gail Kearns? Gail?
My name is Gail Kearns, and I'm at 927 Malala Avenue. I have very similar concerns about this project, the people who have already spoken. I think it's an excellent idea to test by just restriping and correcting the lights, traffic lights. Any kind of a disturbance in this kind of a project changes people's patterns. It has a long-term effect on business, construction, and the changed traffic patterns. That is my primary concern, and because I was not aware of the scope of this project, I'm a little bit late coming to this, but
What's the cross street where you live? Are you
I'm
927?
very close to Hilda Homes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And it's my business, not my home.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in the business.
That's
yeah.
fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one,
Go.
well, I guess it's not so much a question, but it is something that's been referred to at least 3 times. That's the restriping. Last 2 times, the signalization came into play. The notion of restriping, kind of intrigues me, and maybe after the next public hearing, we can have staff respond to that, to actually get a before and after evaluation. It makes sense. Signalization is not a cheap thing. That is, if we change those signals at the same time we restripe, I'm sure we're talking well over $100,000 per intersection, probably. It is not a cheap
To
thing.
change the timing?
The thing is, the timing would have to be interhooked with each other. They're not, the notion is, I think when you have the peak hour going one direction, peak hour going the other direction, the signals are going to be timed accordingly, and I understand that requires some interconnection. You could not change the current signals to perform in the manner that they're going to have to perform
Maybe
with a
they
restart
should
plan.
be better than they are now, but not what is planned for the future. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe staff will be able to respond to that after our next public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Holland. We know you.
Hi, gentlemen. My name is Kathy Holland. I operate a business at 914 Malala Avenue. And I'm going to kind of reiterate some of the stuff that's been said tonight because I was making notes back there, but I kind of want to counteract what Linda Carter said when she talked about the careening of her father's vehicle there into AA Reynolds property. And since I'm in the insurance business, I see that as a driver's incapability to handle their vehicle at the time. I don't think it's so much that the building's, very close to the property. I just tonight coming up the hill, another example, bicyclists there at Holmes Road, which is right where my business is, pulled out to come across Malala Avenue before the light had completely, I wasn't at a complete stop. I almost hit them, and it terrified me. But it wasn't my driving. I mean, I was slowing down, but they just pulled out too fast. So that is another. That's responsibility of the driver of the vehicle, whether it's motorized or not. The example, just this weekend, I was coming down from my office, which was 2 lanes there, down the single lane because I live off of J.Q. Adams. Okay, so it's single lane, you come down the hill. Between Hillside Chapel and Monroe, 2 vehicles with teenage drivers in them. Now, they had 2 lanes up above to get around vehicles, but they were passing 3 of us. in and out, in the single lane. So if you condense this traffic, I don't see where it's going to get any better if it's single lane up on Malala Avenue. Because those teenagers, so that's another, I think it causes more condensing in the traffic, and that concerns me going down to that. One of the things that's a really big issue with me is, and I agree with this striping, that we need to test that. And the reason for the testing is, I think part of the problem of wanting to do, why they want to do this project is because of the federal funds, I believe, that's going to be available to do this project. Are there not funds tied to this project that you'll be able to have access to? Okay. And I worry that we're going to have another catastrophe because I see Beaver Creek in 213 as that. I think they rushed it because they didn't have enough money to do it the way they're doing it. And this sounds just like this. This sounds exactly what's going on. They want to get this done because they're going to get into these funds rather than saying, well, you know what, maybe 2-3 years down the road, the feds will match us on a better project. We'll still be able to have the 4 lanes and not condense the traffic. I just don't like seeing us do things. And my other concern is, who's accountable? Who made ODOT accountable for the fiasco that is Beaver Creek Road in 213? Are you willing to stand up and be responsible and put your job on the line like we do as business owners for something to go wrong? You see what I'm saying? And that's one more small thing.
All right.
One more small thing.
Okay, you bet.
Okay, Dan, you, when you use the word facts and stuff, I remember the people from Kettleton saying, I think the last meeting that I was at, that Oregon City had a unique street plan. Okay, he's talking facts. Well, what Kettleton is saying is they don't have facts either. That's a projection. They're projecting because our streets are very unique. So where's the facts at? I just don't see where they're at.
Thank you very much, Kathy.
Oh, okay.
Some of the safety features are designed for dealing with. Some of the safety features are designed for dealing with people that are acting like jerks on the road. But I still wouldn't feel very good if I had a bicycle come in front of me because of his own stupidity and I hit him.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
I agree with you, but I think there's some responsibility in it that needs to be taken on.
Michelle. M-E-A-S-E-L-E. Oh, sorry, Mizell. Michelle Mizell. Pretty.
I live at 1710 Division Street, and I am not a business owner along Malala.
That's all right. You can testify.
I have a couple of concerns. I actually only heard about this because some people in a grocery store I was in shopping were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually appalled that as a resident of Oregon City, that only the people along the corridor are notified about this. I feel like this is an issue that not only financially impacts everyone in town, but tremendously is going to impact everyone's shopping.
You're speaking to a serious issue, but this has been in the newspapers, it's been in a lot of places, been in the trail news, but it's a difficult issue for us. It's a difficult issue to get everybody tuned into it.
What she brought up, though, I read those notices sometimes in the paper, and you can't make heads or tails out of what they're really trying to say, because they're not really in English.
Well, then in the cases you should come and find out, maybe.
Right, but you understand, I believe there's going to be a huge, I think the restriping idea is great, because I believe the public outcry, once they finally realize what you're really doing, is going to be tremendous.
Excuse me, I just want to say it again, this has been an issue among all of us for a long time, how to figure out how to make public notice work so that we do get early input.
In English.
Yeah, well, disregarding that point, it's the fact that it's one of the reasons I was starting the Southland Neighborhood Association, because we weren't getting that kind of notice. We still haven't solved the problem, but we do recognize it.
Let me butt in. We'll give you.
We're going to have to reset it.
We'll give her some more time. But
questions don't count.
Derek was chairman of the Citizen Involvement Committee at the time, over the last 18 months, that this was in the process. So I would ask, did the city notify the CIC, and did the CIC then pass that notification on down to the neighborhood groups? Because I mean, that's a primary thing.
Actually, yes, they did. Nancy came to the Citizen Involvement Committee several times, not only for the Transportation System Plan, but this whole book, which is the whole Malala plan, and this is just a fine tuning of a plan here. And then we had I know that Nancy even came to the Gaffney Lane Neighborhood Association meetings and talked about the transportation system plan. So, and it spread out down to the neighborhood association. So we were trying to do our way, any way we could, to get public notification.
I will speak to that because I see somebody in the audience shaking their head saying no. I try to make as many neighborhood association meetings as I can. At least at 4 of them when I was there, this presentation was being made. So I cannot fault staff at all about getting the information to neighborhood associations. They did so, without question.
We do
and I think
appreciate
every
it.
chair, well, I'm actually not speaking to you. I'm speaking to somebody there who's vocally making statements. I think every chair of the neighborhood association would attest to the fact that they went to the neighborhoods. I've heard you speaking to people, and when those people come up to speak, they say something else entirely from what you said, including our members of the fire department, when you testified there, and they counteracted everything you said that they said they said.
Okay, let's not have a debate in the audience here, folks. Okay. Ma'am, did you have some more?
Yes.
Okay.
I heard the engineers discussing how easy it was going to be to turn into these new parking lot, but how hard is it going to be to get out of them?
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting in a parking lot with a line of cars, because there is going to be a line of cars. I sit at the post office for 10 or 15 minutes because it's one lane now, trying to get out. And I'm making a right turn. I'm not trying to go against traffic.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to cause a tremendous business loss. I, for one, don't shop at Kmart or Albertsons anymore because I don't like dealing with that intersection up there. I think, I don't know what businesses are represented here. I don't know if Fred Meyer's or Danielson's. If it becomes such a problem to go up to the top of the hill, we can go down to McLaughlin or down, to Gladstone or someplace where it might be easier to get to.
Okay.
My third thing is that TriMet, the idea about the inserts, I'm sure all of you have driven in Portland where they do have those. And what TriMet's figured out is if they pull into those, they can't get back out. So they pull into them, they leave their butt ends sticking out to make sure they can get back out. So they basically still block traffic trying to get up. The third lanes, I don't understand how the fire and police department, when you have as many people as will be blocking into those, they don't call those suicide lanes for nothing because you're going to turn from here and this guy's coming from here, and I see it on McLaughlin all the time. You just almost hit each other. Well, you've got people sitting in there, and then the police and fire are supposed to be trying to go up to the middle in an emergency. I don't understand that either.
Okay.
I think the best thing that's been brought up tonight is the idea of testing of it, of just restriping and just blocking it down to 2 lanes and seeing what happens. I think that will answer a lot of questions that are being raised.
Thank you for coming, even though you don't have a business.
Thank you.
Bill Elliott? I see you at the exercise.
I know, I see you there too.
You do a good job.
You'll never see me there.
Yeah, you never see him there.
Bill Elliott, I'm a dentist in Oregon City. I've been at 1017 Molal Avenue for 22 years now.
Do we have a letter in here from you, Bill?
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you if you got that letter.
Right.
I would ask you to read that letter because it addresses this not being notified. And a few other concerns that I have. I sat through the Planning Commission meeting on the 17th, and the engineers gave a report showing pictures of a 3-lane intersection, which did not fit Molal Avenue. It was quite a bit wider, the examples they used. They had full bus turnouts all the way down and parking for cars on both sides, which made it considerably wider. So from a fact standpoint, I really don't see how the engineers have really addressed the amount of space that we have to use on Molal Avenue.
Just to prove it, Dan, here's the letter. To prove it, we do have the letter.
Oh, thank you. So that concerns me. A lot of people have been questioning. Well, it's hard for us as lay people to question engineers' facts. But the fact was, we looked at the pictures and the examples they used, there was not one example from anywhere that they could find in the United States that fit Molal Avenue. And they said, well, you've got to take each one individually. Quite frankly, I don't see that we have the space on Molal Avenue to do, to not bottleneck this traffic. One person brought up right turns. We haven't really fully addressed right turns. We've talked a lot about left turns, but we haven't talked about right turns. Or, I'm sorry,
Okay.
left turns. I'm sorry, left turns. When we're coming up, there's a lot of traffic turning off on these side arterials, taking left turns. That stops, as well as buses and the other things. So it's not just the right turns that I'm concerned about. It's going to back that traffic up. Accidents, in regards to accidents, my office faces Molal Avenue, and I'm real familiar with what happens in my office in coming into our parking lot, and I think Ken could attest to this too. I cannot think of one patient or one person in the building since I've owned it, or even before that, that's been in an accident turning into our parking lot. So I question this, and from statistics that I've heard from other people, that there's really a problem, that there's that much of a danger problem with the present situation. One thing that really concerns me, there's a lot of sewer and phone repair along Molal Avenue, and as soon as it starts raining, these phone lines or whatever fill up with water, and they're pumping water out. The reason I know is because they pump it into my driveway, because I have the best sewer escapement for that. What bothers me, if we go down to 3 lanes and then they block that lane to pump this water out of the sewer drains.
Oh, you're speaking when they work, they pump
Yeah,
water. Okay.
yeah, and they do it
I couldn't figure out why they're
3 or
pumping
4
water.
times a year. I mean, it's going on all the time.
Right.
That's going to turn it into a lot worse than a 3-lane situation. The only other point I'd like to make is, and I really appreciate Sharon Zimmerman coming up to me after the last meeting about closing my driveway and making me access and doing a lot of private improvements to my property. She said, don't panic, we can work things out, we'll work something out with you you'll be happy with. I want to go on record that I appreciate that, and I'd love to work something out in those regards, but I still have to oppose this. And I think that if it is going to be unanimously approved by the Planning Commission, then I would like to see a test period of time where they stripe it and see how it really works.
Okay, Bill, a couple of comments, I think.
Or just because I don't, addresses don't do anything for me. I've lived here all
I'm
my
right
life.
across from the ARCO station, and I have a 4-plex office building.
Just beyond Double A.
Yeah, there's a vacant lot next to me. Used to be a gas station.
Gotcha.
Used to be an arcade, and I think it's a
Okay.
gun shop now.
Yeah,
Right,
good job,
right.
right.
The other side.
Okay.
2 things, if I might. One, Nancy, he was mentioning pumping out the sewer. The activities when actually construction on the road occurs is that corrections are going to be made on all our utilities where they're under capacity and so forth. So actually sewer lines would be improved, stormwater systems would also be improved. So
It's whatever water floods the phone lines.
it'd probably be the stormwater, and those things are going to be corrected in the very process. And I wanted to refer to the chief, police chief, in terms of traffic accidents and the nature of them. Are you in a position to address any of that?
Well, I can't respond directly to what happens at his driveway because I don't have it that specific. You know, I do have information on the accident issue on Molal Avenue. I can tell you that, and I think the commissioners have seen these stats before, we ranked the 10 worst intersections in Oregon City. 3 of those 10 worst are on Molal Avenue. 2 of them south of Warner Milne would be 213 Molal Avenue and Beaver Creek Molal Avenue. And also in the top 10 would be Molal Avenue. Barkley Hills Drive is one of the 10 worst intersections in the city. The police department on Molal Avenue investigated the total length of Molal Avenue from 213 to Division Street, investigated 89 accidents in the year 2000 on Molal Avenue. And I also went to another source, the Department of Motor Vehicles ODOT stats for the year 2000, and found that for the length of Molal Avenue, there were 92 accidents happened that involved Molal Avenue either as the main street or the cross street, and that 51 of them were listed as occurring on Molal Avenue. 40 of those 51 happened north of Warner Milne Road. Okay, thank you for that. Thanks very much for your testimony. Appreciate it, Matt. And Mayor Ken Mitchell. Nice to see you.
Good evening. I'm Kenneth Mitchell. My business address is 1001 Molal Avenue, Oregon City, Oregon. I think that one of the things that's very important to remember as we go through developing and redeveloping the city is that all of us really want to have a quality community. I think that there isn't one individual here that's spoken to the Planning Commission or to you tonight wishes to have things not change because they want things to be worse. They all want it to be better. I think we all do. The one thing that does concern me, there's a number of things, but one of the things that concerns me is in the actual January Malala Avenue Boulevard and Bikeway Improvement Plan, it states fairly clearly that on page 22.
January, which report are you talking about?
This is the major thick report.
Okay.
It's out on the counter.
I understand.
It states that in the area where my office facility is.
Page number again.
22.
Okay.
At the top, that we are expecting in the north segment a 70% increase in the traffic by the year 2020. It also states on page 34 that by the year, it says, in order to meet the city's current operational standards given the forecast year 2020 traffic volume projection, an additional through lane capacity, i.e. a 5-lane cross-section, would be required in these locations to serve projected weekday PM peak hour demand. It goes on to state that, however, there are 3 factors that are important to consider when determining the appropriateness of the forecast operations along the corridor: limits at the north terminus, travel demand model, and community goals. And I think the community goals are something that have to be really looked at very closely, because I've read the community goals in the Malala Avenue traffic plan, but the Malala Avenue area is the only major traffic thoroughfare in the city. And I do believe, as we found out on Highway 213, that we're really going to be facing a serious congestion problem on Malala Avenue. And I believe that if we do, as Commissioner Neely has indicated, if we do a traffic count on Lynn Avenue, on Warner Parrott, on Telford Road, and on Malala Avenue, before you restripe, and then you restripe, and do the modifications that are the least expensive without doing this plan with 3 lanes, and you make a mistake, and you've done it all, it's going to be major expensive to go to 5 lanes and say, oops, we made a mistake, and it's a big one. I really am concerned about the children, too. We have a number of schools on Lynn Avenue. We have a number of schools on Warner Parrott. We have on South End Road, middle schools and grade schools. And we don't always have days like today that are beautiful and nice, and the kids are out during the sunshine. A lot of activities in those areas. We just need to do it the best way we can. I know you're trying. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much. Well, that's all the testimony I have here listed. Do you have one, sir? Come on up. Thank you. While he's sitting down, we do have a letter that hasn't been entered in the record yet. Do you have that with you now? Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm on 1335 Malala Avenue.
And your name?
My name is Tim Cockerham.
Okay.
Represent the meetings. This is my first time on anything like this before.
Just relax and tell us what you want to tell us.
Just listening to everyone out here, they have a lot of good information. I think before we move forward, the test strike would be a great idea, I think that there's been a lot of thought prior to the meetings, but a lot of people weren't notified about the meeting because we weren't as well. As well as when the construction was going through, I heard some plans of maybe limiting the amount of ins and outs of different businesses on Malala, and channeling through some of the cross streets like Hilltop and down further. I don't think that'd be a good thing for our business per se.
And what is your business, by the way? Oh, I gotcha. I understand. Sorry. I missed that.
Yeah. Because right now, when Malala backs up, we back up.
You're in trouble. Yeah.
as it is stands today. So I think by limiting the traffic, even going the right turns out of our facility, that acts now. And if you limit that flow, it would really shut us down. Again, to say the test would be a way to go. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming.
I'm just going to comment on that. I think those decisions would be based upon a business by business basis, and I think there would be potential for some businesses, supposing you get adjacent property owners to agree, you might find that in some of the businesses you might be able to increase the off-street parking in the parking lots by having fewer curb cuts. But I think that's a look on a business by business basis. There's no desire on the part of our staff to reduce people's businesses in this process.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I noticed the staff's been taking, oh yes, well, I don't have a blue sheet for you, but I guess you can. But you're the man.
You always have me sign one.
Yeah, right.
I think Mr. Stenick qualifies as a long-term business owner.
You're the man with the fence who came down, too.
My name is Dave Stenick. I have property 1141 Molell Avenue. The business has been there since 1951. Building happened to be there a long time before that, and when it was built, it wasn't on Molell Avenue. I hate to say it, but it was back about 20 feet. But since the widening of Molell Avenue, the building was cut off, and now we're just right on the line. So, but that's neither here nor there. I just want to mention a couple of things, and I have a nice little story that I always tell, so bear with me on this one. A few years ago, I was down at Ogden School talking with ODOT and getting ready to do the nice little bypass we built. And at that time, being that we're bashing traffic engineers, it's a good time for that. I sat through several meetings down there, and they guaranteed me that it would be 2006 before I'd sit through any cycles at 213 and Beaver Creek Road. Well, the very day that it opened, I sat through 3 cycles to get through it my very first time. We all know it's an intersection that's not working. It's a failed intersection. If they'd listened to us then, we could have told them then. I mean, it was a perfect place for an overpass. And as it turned out, they actually ended up spending more money filling that thing in and doing all the drainage around that than they would have if they had put the overpass in like they should have. Now, here we are listening to some more traffic engineers telling me about the traffic on Molell Avenue. I hate to be as old as I am, but these kids haven't been around long enough to see Molell Avenue. I talked to them, I appreciate what they're trying to do, and I appreciate the methods that they're trying to use to predict traffic flow. I was with the school board for years, and Portland State for years tried to tell us how many kids there was going to be in school. They didn't come close. Traffic engineers, they don't come close. I appreciate the situation you're in. You're trying to do the best thing for Oregon City, but common sense tells you that you can't go from 4 lanes to 3 lanes and not congest traffic. It just doesn't work that way. So what I'd like to do is set a criteria. If you do pass it, I know you're going to pass it. When you're done passing it, please set a criteria of how to fix it after you mess it up. Okay? If you're going to do phase 1, and stripe the rest, then at least before you do phase 2 and 3 and 4, take a good solid look at it and see if it's working. To me, that's just common sense. You know and I know what it's going to take. It's going to take 5 lanes there to move cars through there, just like it is on Beaver Creek Road. It's going to take 5 lanes. And from what I understand, this money was supposed to go to Beaver Creek Road to begin with, but you don't have enough money to do Beaver Creek Road.
No, this is an independent, that has nothing to do with it.
Nothing to
the
do with
money
Beaver
is still
Creek
there
Road.
for Beaver Creek Road. It's just that the federal money doesn't come available till 2003. Our match is in the bank.
Yeah, $2 million plus.
Yeah, $2.5 million from the city. That money's there. This is not has anything to do with that.
There's $3 million through the federal process of the state for that. There's $6.5 million actually to be spent on Beaver Creek 213 interchange. Phase 1 is we're in design.
So you're in phase 1. Is phase 2 funded at all?
Nope.
Phase 3 or 4?
Nope.
Okay.
And it's not even our road, so we've got $2.5 million invested in something that's not ours because we recognize the problem, and that's okay.
Okay, I mean, I would like to see it work. I mean, I'm not against change, and if it actually worked, I would,
Anybody,
I'd be the first one to let you know that.
anybody come in here wearing an Oregon State shirt after last week must be a change.
We won last year. That's the first time in a whole bunch of time I can finally wear it. It's been in the closet for
Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. All right. Okay. I think we've heard all we can hear tonight, and I think I'd like to reserve the comments, gentlemen, unless you have something burning that you have to say. That. All right. Go ahead.
Well, one, I'm kind of with Commissioner Neely here. I think what I would like to see is staff come up with some basic ideas about what it will cost for to do a restriping test. And then along with that, there's also, I know there's some question about when we restripe, we have to realign the signals and what kind of a temporary cost that would be if we were to have to move the signals. When we talk moving signals, we're talking moving them left and right. We're not talking about moving the whole thing somewhere. And the other issue, and I understand that that the attempts were made, but I have a question about notification. In a process like this where we have a fairly long project area, was every address on both sides of Molalla Avenue, at minimum, was every address sent a notification?
I could probably have Mrs. Zimmerman answer that question because I think she was in-depthly involved in actually doing the notifications, if I'm not mistaken. But
Sorry,
you did notice every business within that.
During the public involvement, Sharon Zimmerman of the City of Oregon City. During the public involvement phase of the Molalla Avenue Boulevard and Bikeway Improvement Plan, we had 2 public meetings, and to that we sent notices to the property owners along Molalla Avenue that are 300-foot offset from Molalla. And it would have been on both sides of the roadway.
300 feet on both sides.
On both sides.
300 feet on both sides for the full length of Molalla.
Yes.
And the time frame for that notification was?
Before the public meetings that we had, the public open houses.
But I'm talking about, was that in December of 1999? Was it?
It would have been between 2 to 3 weeks prior to the meeting.
And that meeting was when?
I don't recall. I don't have.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm trying to get in my own head.
Different ones. I believe one was in September and another was in December
of
2000.
Of 2000.
And there was also one in September.
And you've mentioned property owners, I think, and I think you've realized that is a problem. Of course, a lot of the businesses don't own their own properties, so the individual businesses may not have heard about it.
That's correct.
Yeah. Please, no comments from the audience, please.
Well, I mean, we've heard that, and I'm sure that things have fallen through the cracks, but I also know there's a lot of property owners here that did receive the notices, and I did go to the first public meeting. Generally, public meetings weren't that well attended, so they had it out here in the lobby, and it was packed with people. I don't think you ever had one of these meetings in that small of an area again. I did go to that first public meeting, and there were a lot of people there.
I guess just to finish my thought, and then I'll we'll be quiet. But I guess when we talk about improving the notification process, especially when we're talking about, obviously the 7th Street Quarter Plan's coming up, and there's some other stuff that's going to happen on Main Street and other things that we need to think about, not only the property owner, but the resident of the property being notified of these kinds of changes, because very often a building is leased to a business owner. Those things are going to economically affect that business, but legally he's not the property owner, she's not going to get notification, and you're not going to get called on again, so it doesn't really matter.
Yep, no, please, no, please. Derek?
Just one more thing for research, Nancy, for the next meeting. I was at that open house for the first phase from Pearl Street to Barclay, And that was when you were really getting into details of construction. And one thing that I started seeing was a lot of pedestrian crosswalks, and more than just at streetlight intersections. And so that potentially could be a place that you could have, people slowing down and reduce traffic. So I'd kind of like to know a little bit more about the concepts of that, of the crosswalks and the need for them and that type of thing.
Okay. Well, we have another hearing coming. We have plenty of time for more comments and answers to these questions and summations. So that'll end the public hearing for tonight. Thank you all. And we have only a couple more items of business. If you want to stay, you can leave right now, whichever way.
Mayor, while they're cleaning, Commissioner Holliday had a request for staff to come up with some cost estimates. Could I ask Ms. Crushhour if that's something we can get by October 17th?
Excuse me, but we haven't had a full discussion of that yet. I think we got to wait until we...
Okay. All right. I would just...
Okay. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just want clarification from Ms. Crushhour that that's actually something we can work with the traffic engineers to kind of estimate a cost or what kind of detail would be involved in.
I think we can do some rough costs, and they'll be pretty rough. But I think one thing we need to focus on is the resolution applies to adopting that. Essentially, it's an access management plan, and maybe the conversation can continue as to what the phase 1 project looks like after the resolution is either adopted or not adopted. But we can have some gross cost estimates.
This would be my point.
Gross meaning...
Never mind, I'll ask it.
Yeah, we'll...
Okay.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you
great.
for that.
Okay.
We only have, now, Derek, oh, you're leaving? Okay. Well, we're about finished here.
May I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Are the group from Kittleton's going to be here at the next meeting so they can respond to anything? Yeah.
I tell you what, let's, yeah, we just have the consent agenda left, and you had made a request. Do you wish to pull that or not? Do you want to further discuss it, or have you had your answers?
Actually, my questions in relationship to the ESCO agreement for the Home Depot, I was satisfied with the answers that I received.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Police Chief.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Staff would like to ask that item 4.4 be pulled from the consent agenda and handled separately.
4.4.
It's a bid award.
All right. I have a motion on the rest of it.
Hold it. Can I say one thing first?
All right. Go ahead.
I wanted to thank Nancy and her staff for providing the extra information on the personal services agreement. I appreciate, we've been asking staff to do that for a while, and they actually gave us some answers that made a whole lot of sense to me, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
And I would like to look at quickly 4.7 and 4.8.
Well, then, okay, we'll take those out. How about the rest of it?
Mayor, we also have we do have Home Depot's joint escrow agreement. We did get an updated version that Ms. Crushhour has, and she just wants to make sure that she makes you aware of the language changes. There's not many, it's minor, but...
Has the attorney seen it?
My associates.
Are you satisfied that there are no fundamental changes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I have a motion on the consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda, pulling items 4.4, 4.7, and 4.8.
Second, roll call. Aye.
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 Aye. Let's look at 4.4 then, which is... Sure.
Yes, Mayor. We had a minor alteration to the 4.4 agenda item. Police Chief Harris will be able to bring you up to speed on what that minor change would be.
See, I'm going to stop a second. Do you need to take 1 minute? 1 minute adjournment here, okay. We'll come back into session now. Chief?
Yes, the item 4.4 is a item that we put out for bid that was budgeted in this year's budget for the police department. We have discovered since the bid went out that we made a technical error in our bid specs that we put out. However, we still recommend the approval of the bid and believe it has not materially affected the results of the bidding process. What happened is when we had to research this last spring to come up with some number for our budget, and so we solicited material from the different manufacturers and also solicited, knew the sizes of the pieces of equipment. This is a very large file carousel, similar to the one we already have in there. When we prepared the advertisement, we inadvertently, instead of putting in the size of the space that we have, we put in the size of one of the machines of one of the bidders. In fact, it was the size of the machine of one of the losing bidders. The other machine, the low bid, is actually 1 point some inches longer and 1 point some inches wider. It fits into our space. It is the low bid, and we would ask that that bid be approved. And I've discussed this with the city attorney.
My question is, I'm amazed at the prices. There isn't $300, no, $500 difference.
When he,
how is that? That a coincidence? I can't believe that.
When he said they inadvertently put in something, I thought he was going to say the price of a piece of equipment.
I would point out that there's only actually 2 products there. 2 of those are different companies bidding the same piece of equipment.
Okay, I'm with you. And this equipment, not installation and all that?
That is to take out our old one, bring in the new one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in reality, just so we can talk about the bid process a little bit, somewhere in the general bid documents it said that the contractor was required to investigate the space and do all that. Is that not correct?
No, I don't think that was in there.
Moving right along.
We put some we put dimensions in there ourselves.
Yeah. Have a motion on this?
Move to authorize the city manager to accept the bid from ONW Inc. for $19,418.68 for replacement of existing file carousel system.
I second it.
He just loves to talk. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Now, Commissioner, you asked about
I have
7 and 8.
I have 2 questions, and one on each. On 4.8, Chief, this is a new restaurant. Where's
Actually, it is where Taco Time has been, in that building.
Down there on
Oh, right. Okay, so they bought the building or leasing the building, and they're having another restaurant there?
It is actually the owner of Tachos.
Right, I'm aware of that.
And they are going to put, I think, more of a cafe, more informal fast food and also eat-in Mexican food in there, and asking for a limited license to which would cover beer and wine within that premise.
I'd like to follow up on that because I understood it was fast food and there might be some drive-through capabilities. I presume you're shaking your head no?
No, there would be drive-through, but
Yeah.
you presume that you can't sell beer through the drive-through,
And I would presume that's
that
the
presumption
case.
is correct.
And the owners will be fully aware of that.
They are. We've talked to them.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll. We might as well just move these one at a time. Move agenda item 4.8 for the liquor license application at 503 Malala.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. You have booze on your mind today.
Well, it's typically I like to let the market do this, but I'm more concerned about 4.7. This is the full-on premise sales for the event center downtown, and I guess the question I have, and I don't know much about the whole liquor license deal, but would this essentially mean? Would this license essentially allow them to operate as a hard liquor establishment full-time if they so chose to?
Yes, the liquor license would allow them to, yeah, it doesn't restrict the rest of their business, yeah, or the accompanying business.
Okay.
Motion?
I move to do whatever we need to do.
Approve.
Are you moving to approve? Or
Yes,
not to
approve.
Okay.
I second it.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. That's all that's on the formal agenda, correct?
That's all.
That's it? Okay. We got a couple other items I think that need to be cleared up. One is that at our request, the staff has been operating the trolley as a taxi from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill because the elevator is being repaired, and the staff did a sampling of how many people were going there and the cost, and it appears to me that the cost exceeds the benefit for taxiing people from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill. And I'd like to see that practice stopped. I don't know how you
Well,
thought about
I'd
it.
like to hear from the city manager. Do you know what the cost and what the numbers of the people are?
Well, the numbers of the people are averaging about 40.6 riders per day. That's specifically what we dedicated the elevator, what we call the elevator trolley. I don't have the exact cost per rider at this point. If you recall, in the budget process, we budgeted for the trolley through the end of October, because that's what we anticipated the end of the work for the elevator would be. I could get that number.
Well, Brian Cosgrove told me the cost was about $10,000 for the operation of the trolley during that period of time. Do you think that's correct? That was what I was basing my opinion on. So.
Okay.
Well, it seems to me we've already made, we have kind of a gentleman's agreement up here that we don't bring anything up and stop it in the same meeting. So by the time we got around to the second meeting in October and dealt with it, we're only going to have about 10 days left of the operation of the unit. Is that correct?
That's staff's understanding, is that it ends at the end of October, that the trolley.
Yeah, would the elevator be done by the end of October? I presume not. The only question I've got, and I think there may have been a misinterpretation when we actually put forward that recommendation in terms of continuing, and I put forward the motion. The intent was for it to operate during the peak hours of use of the elevator. I have seen it going down there at noon hour, and so I assume it's providing greater service than I anticipated it would.
That's probably correct.
When I think when we see this time breakout, the pedestrian, the user use, that we actually see when the people are using it. And whether it's the impression of anybody that there's somebody that's using it that might not be able to walk the stairs physically.
Well, I'm with you, Doug, but my concern was if the cost was correct, the 10,000, we can hire a taxi for those folks a lot cheaper than we can do that.
Yeah.
So, but I guess the missing element now is the cost. I don't want to say that's the truth.
I can get that within a couple days. I'm sure of it. The one thing we did get were the ridership numbers, because if you recall, we only started that second trolley a month within a month. I think it was Labor Day week was when it started. So,
but the discussion point I think is important, because if the elevator is going to be closed for another month or two beyond October, then is it practical for us to continue the service beyond then? And I think we need that discussion.
Sure. Okay. We need more data, I guess. Then there's a work session scheduled on your sheet for next month with TriMet, and I have concern about that, and Doug and I have been talking about it back and forth.
Is this the Canby issue?
Yeah, the Canby issue. And yeah, okay, well, go ahead.
No.
Oh, well, it just seems to me that it isn't a commission issue, that it should be settled at the staff level, and we have suggestions from both the Canby folks and from TriMet. Apparently, that staff report that what's her name, Militante, downloaded, it appears that the sub-problem is practically solved, and I thought maybe it was perhaps a better level to be at the traffic committee level and invite the neighborhood people in and get the discussion at the TriMet, but Doug has a different opinion on it.
Well, my opinion is this: they're going to have their second reading of the ordinance on the I believe it's the fourth Wednesday. I I think it'd be good for us to be informed about what the conditions are in the ordinance. There is a period of time. The service won't come into effect until September of next year, so it's not an issue that certain things cannot be resolved. But to say it's done on the staff level, when actually it's not the staff that's using, I would guess there's probably no staff members using 79.
I didn't mean staff level, I meant the staff could call the meetings and it didn't have to be a work session.
Well, I guess I'd prefer to hear both from the Canby and TriMet people what the proposed things are, so we know what they are going to be. The ordinance is going to be passed upon in the second reading at the end of this month by TriMet.
Well, it's the next work session before the next commission meeting.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm not in favor of it. Brian? Derek?
Actually, I'm with you, Mayor, in regards to, I'd like to have it go down first at the staff level, and there was a recommendation that we do go to the neighborhood associations, but I am a little concerned about timing.
Well, I think a special meeting is necessary. Call the leaders of those committees, those neighborhoods together with the transportation committee. And I don't know, that's where I feel it should be.
Well, before we get too excited about this, in reality, we have no control over what Canby does.
No, but I think Doug, Doug is concerned about the effect on South End and bus.
Oh, no, and I don't disagree with that, but I'm kind of the opinion of the other two that I think maybe let's let the two staff see if they can come up with something or what the consequences are going to be without us spending an hour with TriMet people, talking numbers. But that's my opinion.
Well, I went to the TriMet meeting. The proposals were put forward there. The letter that you shared with me, John, that came from the planning. John Williams at Canby was in fact not the preferred option that TriMet was putting forward there in that meeting.
Well, I understand all that, and I agree with you most of it. I just think it should be talked about on our committee level before it comes up to the commission. And I think we have 3-1 on that, so it should be taken off as a work session and solved the other way. Nancy, you're not looking this way. Is that possible to do that?
It's the last Wednesday of this month.
And we just had a CIC meeting last
It would have to be a special meeting, I know now about it.
Yeah, you bet. You can have it. What's that? Most likely, yeah, there's some conflict with the
Okay, so we can do that. All right. We need to know that the citizens have heard and said their piece and what they think about it and what their complaints are. And we do need to tell TriMet. We also need to tell TriMet that we're kind of PO'd, Brian, that they didn't notify you and Nancy and others that this was affecting the city.
I mean, I have a backup because usually Nancy gets everything I do, and I was not notified that changes were being made.
I think they committed a big blunder there, and they should be told that.
No, when is this TriMet workshop? I don't have it on my calendar.
It was
on the 17th.
It's the fourth Wednesday of the month, I believe.
No.
Before session, it's on the schedule for 6 o'clock on our next meeting.
It's not on that.
Okay.
Anything else? I'm sorry. You have something?
No, actually, that was the thing I was going to talk about.
Rock and roll. He's late. Meeting's adjourned.